Hello YouTube, this is Darkon633, and today we're taking a look at the YoMotion Yokai Watch Model 0, based on the second season of the Yokai Watch anime series. Now, in Japan, the season is actually still Season 1, since Japan tends to have longer season in times with some animes, but for the US dub for the series, Disney decided to produce them as a second season, which makes a lot more sense since Nate was getting a new watch and it works out overall. Now this watch, while it does have a lot of cool gimmicks and features, unfortunately it has less ability to read more metals. Now while it can read the original metals from the first 4 series of Yokai metals and so on, unfortunately they do not read in the traditional way that the rest of the new metals will be able to read on the watch. Another thing is that the $30 price point might be a little bit deterring to some people, but it does have a lot more cool features, and it makes sense of why it is $10 more expensive than the standard Yokai watch that was released mostly earlier this year, but it did reach some stores around Christmas time last year. Anyways, we'll take a look at the box. The box is pretty cool, actually. It's got a lot more color to it than usual, and it looks really nice. Just says Yokai Watch Model 0. It works with the app and so on. And it does have a window-style box where it shows the feature of the main features of the watch up here. On the back, it just shows you a bunch of things it can do. It shows that it does project, which is something that the Japanese watch actually cannot do, so that's pretty cool. And it's got a lot more new things going on for it, so that's cool. Similar to the original watch, this watch does include 2 metals, so we're going to get to it right now. Just looking at the watch itself, it has a lot more color compared to the original release. And just as a comparison, here it is next to the standard watch from the first series. As you can see, the bubble itself is a lot thicker on the original release. This version, though, the bubble stays in, it doesn't open, while the original, as I reviewed earlier, it does open up and so on, it makes the sound. This one works just a tad bit differently, though. It has 2 features, which is a bit of a shame since I thought this actually will have a full-on on and off switch, but instead it has an on and a demo mode. So we're just going to quickly go into the demo mode first. It has no confirmation sound, I don't think, in either. But anyways, when you click this piece here is something that's not included in the Japanese release, since the Japanese release had the light but no projection, so that's something the Hasbro release is unique for. And because of that, it does have this really kind of ugly yellow gold piece there, but at least it does work with a pretty cool gimmick. Just to show, since we do need to turn off the light in order to show the gimmick better, so we're going to quickly turn off the lights. Okay, so in the demo mode, you're not going to get much. Basically, the light just shows like this. But when you put it in metal, for example, we're going to quickly put on the Jibanyan metal that is included with the watch. Just going to quickly turn on the secondary light, just to show. Here it is, the Jibanyan metal that it does include. We're just going to slide it in. It's a little bit trickier, and from time to time, this one, for some reason, has a lot more chance of summoning the no-sir sound, so let's see if it'll go normal right now. So in this mode, you're not going to get any sound, but basically what you do is put in the metal, which we're going to quickly turn off the lights again. Apologize if the camera's a bit shaky. It's a little difficult for me to pick this up, but let's see if we'll pick up. So as you can see there, the Jibanyan is using the Paws of Fury, which is being projected on the table there. So that's actually pretty cool. So now we're going to go and look at the rest of the features of the watch. Now that we looked at the light activation and so on, we'll now go on to the main sounds. On the Japanese release, which is unfortunate that the Hasbro release cannot do, what you're supposed to do is dial it to 1 in order to activate the tribe sound, or dial it to 2 to activate it for the summoning sound. On the Hasbro watch, unfortunately, it only goes by sequence, and instead of actually recognizing which mode you're in, it will activate it no matter which dial you turn it to. You can even dial it to the same one twice, and I guess it's a little bit of an easy shortcut for kids, but at the same time, it is unfortunate that it does not do what the Japanese release and then the one on the show is supposed to do. You can still do it the accurate way by just turning it, but the sounds will not make any difference. So anyways, we're just going to slide in the Jibanyan metal as normal. Hopefully the no-sir sound will not activate. So it'll make that sound to confirm that you put it in the metal. So now we're going to slide it to 1. Now, while the lyrics are no longer in this version of the watch, just like in the Japanese version, when they made the secondary watch, they did make a different type of jingle for each of the tribes, but unfortunately you will not hear any lyrics than what we've seen in the first watch. But anyways, so now I'll slide it to 2 in order to summon Jibanyan.
Summoning Charming! Jibanyan! I'm pretty busy right now.
So that's pretty cool. Just to show what I mean, we're going to quickly switch it back to 2 just to confirm the shortcut that unfortunately this watch has.
Oh! Summoning time!
So as you can see, unfortunately it does have the shortcut, so we're just going to quickly turn the dial back and activate it one more time. So...
Summoning Charming!
So now we're going to slide up the metal. But actually before that, we're going to activate the lights and sound once again with the Jibanyan metal inside. So I'll be back. And now we're back with the lights off, since we're going to activate the sound with the metal in the standard mode. It'll say the Yokai's name, and then it'll activate the same Yo motion ability that we've seen with the demo mode. So here we go. So it's actually not bad of a picture when you actually put it in a darker surface or just in the dark in general. So it's actually a pretty bright light. Unfortunately, in the Japanese release, the bubble that's attached to the watch is where the light's supposed to happen. But in compensation, the American version does have that new feature here. So it's understandable, I guess, that some changes did need to be made. Anyways, we're going to look at the watch once again. And we're back. Well, now I'm going to go to the second medal that the set includes, and that's the Yokai named Come On, Come On. I forgot exactly what the Japanese name was, but that is the English name. So here we go. We're just going to slide it out. It's going to make the same sound as the standard Yokai watch does when you slide it out. And we're going to slide this one in. And then do the same thing we did with Jibanyan. So here we go.
Oh! Summoning time!
Another thing to note is, unlike the original watch, the summoning sounds, or the tribe sounds, are very similar to what we've seen on the first watch, but a lot of them end abruptly, so they're pretty much like an abbreviated version of the sound. So now we're going to quickly go into the summoning.
Summoning Shady! Come on, come on! Come on!
So that's pretty cool. And now, once again, we're going to activate the Yo motion ability. So we'll be back. Anyways, we're back. We'll now activate the Yo motion ability of the watch for Come On, Come On. So here we go.
Come on, come on!
This one's a little bit harder to see, but as you can see, he's using his ability and so on. So it's pretty cool. It's actually something that happened in the anime in one of the first couple episodes, so that's cool that they actually have that there. So now we're going to look at the watch again and show the differences between the first watch and the second watch more closely. And now we're back again. One thing actually that I do not like about the Hasbro version of the Yo Motion watch is that because it cannot register which side of the dial you're on, there's actually one huge flaw that the watch has. We're just going to put in Jibanyan again to show what I mean. First, just put in any metal, activate it.
Oh! Summoning time!
So there's the tribe sound. However, normally what the watch should be able to do is that it should reset when you put in another metal, but unfortunately that is not the case, since when I put in another metal like Come On, Come On here, or just any metal in general, even when I slide it to either side, it will do this.
Summoning Shady! Come on, come on!
So that's kind of a shame that it does not reset even when you put in another metal, and that could be a little bit of a problem when you're playing around with this watch. But anyway, so now I'll take a look at the differences directly between the first watch and the second watch. So here is the first watch. The faces are pretty much the same between the two. Obviously, this does have the yellow piece there and a few other differences, including obviously the rims around the watch and so on. But they do function very similarly. As I mentioned earlier, this doesn't open up while this one does. So there you go for that one. Another thing that's different is that this watch cannot actually read these metals. It will always make the no sir sound no matter what you do, since it cannot read the secondary metals. Now, as I mentioned earlier in the video, you can use any of the original metals, though, with this watch. So we're just going to take a quick look at how it looks like with it, with the different metals. So now we got Slush, I think this was. We're just going to quickly take a look at it in the original watch just to be sure. So here it is how it looked like in the original watch, which I already reviewed. So, fortunately I did that. There we go. Okay, so it's actually Droplet. I get them confused at times. But anyways, so when you put this metal in the new watch, however, it's going to do this. So it's still going to make the eerie sound. However, when you try to go onto the secondary sound, this is where it falls flat. And unfortunately, it doesn't read the metal's name. And that's kind of the biggest flaw, even though it can read the first Yokai Watch metals. Now, the Japanese version cannot do this at all, which is kind of a plus in the Hasbro version, but it's kind of a shame that they went so far to be able to read the first metals and not actually put the names of them in this watch as well. Unfortunately, also, when you activate this, it does not have the Yo Motion sound or lights because there's no of the usual holes, which we got to look at closely, where the lights would be able to project from. But anyways, we're going to quickly take this out. And before we go on to the other metals for the other tribe sounds, what's actually cool is that the searching for yokai feature is still available even on this watch. So basically, when you have no metals inside, it's going to do this.
Oh! Searching for yokai.
So it's going to have a light coming from here. As you can see, there's a bright light there. And you're just going to do just a single light when searching for a yokai. So that's about it, at least in terms of that. That's a huge plus since the first watch didn't even have LEDs to begin with. So that's really cool. So now we're just going to quickly go through the sounds for each. So first, we're going to take a look at a brave yokai. And because each can't reset, we're just going to quickly go through them and go on from there. Next, we've got a slippery. No sir's activated, so. We're going on to Heartful next. Next, Mysterious. That's one of the most abrupt out of all of them, but anyways. And then, the watch can also read the legendary, which is also quite abbreviated, so there we go. So, that's it for the standard medals. However, you can also read the Whisper medal as well. But this one reads really strange, and we'll see now why. He doesn't have any tribe sound for him, similar to what we did with the original watch, but now it will summon his usual catchphrase when you go into the summonings. Here we go.
What's up, my corporeal friend? I am Whisper, at your service.
And that's about it for that. So that pretty much covers the watch and what you get in the contents and playing alongside the original watches. However, I did end up getting the pages from Amazon, so we're just going to quickly take a quick look at the pages. I just put it in the legendary pages for now, since it's now able to fit inside the medallion since it's so thick. Here it is on the first page. We got a lot of Yokai, but unfortunately the medals have not been released in stores at all or even online yet. So I can't really do much just yet with the Yokai in here. So we're just going to quickly go through them. And unlike the previous series, there are a lot less medals inside the first wave of the Yomotion. However, the set did include an exclusive medal, and that's Taigappa. Now, what's different about these medals, for those who haven't watched the show, these are what you call the classic Yokai, and these are the Yokai based on the more familiar Yokai legends of Japan. So this is obviously just a color swap of a Kappa variant. So anyways, we're going to take a look at it inside the Yomotion watch.
Oh, summoning time.
And slide again.
Summoning charming. Taigappa.
And then, as the others, we'll now take a look at the lights for Taigappa. Now we're going to take a look at the Yomotion light for Taigappa.
Taigappa.
Some of these are really hard to pick up due to the way how it projects, but you pretty much get the idea. So as I've shown, this watch has a lot more features compared to the original watch, though it can be a bit overwhelming in the kind of stuff that the Yomotion watch can do. I do wish that it was able to still read the first series medals fully, and it's a shame that Hasbro went out of their way to release it with the ability to use the first series medals, but without the voices, it's kind of pointless to even use it with this watch to begin with. You might as well just have the standard watch, since they'll be able to read all the first game Yokai watch medals. But other than that, this is definitely a worthwhile pickup. Even at $30, you have a lot to go with for this watch, and it does a lot more than what we've seen in the first watch, outside of the amount of medals that it can physically read with the names and so on. So I highly recommend picking this up. I got this at ToysRUs.com for $30, and it's definitely a really well made watch compared to the first release, which Hasbro went a little bit more cheap on, since the majority of the main features are still intact on this watch outside of the few differences I mentioned earlier, and the lights gimmick with the Yomotion is pretty cool, and I think this watch is just a lot more fun to play around with compared to the first watch. So I highly recommend picking this up. Anyways, please comment, subscribe, and check out Hirotaku and Hero Club. Please check me on Twitter under Darkon633, and don't forget to comment and subscribe. I'll be back with more Yokai watch reviews in the future, but for now I'll be sitting YouTube.
Bye.